When I first discovered polyrhythm, it was like somebody showed me a brand new spatial dimension. I didn't even know that stuff was possible, much less playable. And it took me many years to fully digest this topic. And what I'm going to try and do here in this short video is compress all that information into a nice little tutorial so you can learn to practice, perform, and apply the 3-4 polyrhythm and its inverse, the 4-3 polyrhythm. First, let's take a look at what a polyrhythm actually is. This line will represent a section of time. Let's say it's 2 seconds long. Every 1/2 seconds, we will play the note G, and then repeat back from the beginning. This divides our section of time evenly by 4 beats. If we want to divide this length of time into 3 even beats, we'd have to play a note every 2/3 of a second. Let's use the note B. Now if we play these both together at the same time, we have a 3-4 polyrhythm. 4 even beats taking up the same space as 3 even beats. An important characteristic of polyrhythm is that the beats don't line up until the polyrhythm repeats. This happens because we are using 2 numbers that don't divide into one another, 3 and 4. 2 and 4 would not constitute a polyrhythm since the numbers share a common factor. The even divisions within one measure cause our beats to line up, eliminating that polyrhythmic sound. So a polyrhythm can be any 2 numbers that don't divide into one another, like 7-4, or 11-3. Now, as you can hear, some of those polyrhythms aren't very musical, and in fact, some of them are just downright offensive to the ear. But I do think the 3-4 polyrhythm is common enough and interesting enough and easy enough to make it worth our time to practice and master. So how do we actually perform this rhythm? Our first step is to memorize the resultant rhythm, or the composite rhythm, that forms within a 3-4 polyrhythm. Right now, my polyrhythm is being performed on 2 different voices, or notes. But if I combine both rhythms together into one voicing, so that every note is G, the polyrhythm disappears. To memorize this rhythm, students are often taught one of several verbal phrases. I'll refrain from using the more vulgar options and instead opt for this family-friendly alternative: pass the stinking butter.
Pass the stinking butter. Pass the stinking butter.
Memorizing this phrase and pulsing is the first step to being able to play the polyrhythm. The second step is to assign one of our hands to play each word. On the word pass, we hit both hands together. On the stinking, we go left, right, left. And then last, for butter, we go right, left. So putting it together, we have pass the stinking butter. Pass the stinking butter. Faster. Pass the stinking butter. If you can do this, you're actually playing a 3-4 polyrhythm right now. But just because you're playing it doesn't necessarily mean you understand it, right? What I want you to try doing once you've got the hang of this is to take a look at your right hand and try to count what your right hand is doing. Your right hand is playing an even 3 beats like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. But then I want you to try and look at your left hand and try to count what your left hand is doing. And you might have some problems. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's going on there? Why are you able to play this rhythm so easily and be able to count one half of it fairly easily, but the second half of it, your brain just turns to mush? The reason is that phrase that we selected. Pass the stinking butter has 3 naturally strong syllables that divide the phrase into 3 even beats. Pass, stink, but. The parts of the phrase where the 4 beat aligns to are the weak syllables, pass, the, king, and those syllables really are not easy to stress. Now let's face it, this isn't a very musically correct way to be counting rhythms. And unfortunately, this is where many musicians just leave this topic completely. But if we really want to understand what we're doing here, we need to be able to convert this all into musical language. Anytime I want to make a polyrhythm, I just multiply the 2 numbers together to find out what they both divide into. 3 times 4 is 12. So let's just start with 12 notes. Our polyrhythm occurs when one voicing plays every 3 notes, and another voicing plays every 4 notes. So let's find a convenient musical way to notate this. These 12 notes could be 12 quarter notes, 3 measures of 4/4, or they could be 1/8 notes in a measure of 12/8. But let's try to write them as 16th notes. Then it can be treated as a measure of 3/4. When you count 3/4 like this, we get 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda. Counting every 4th note gives us an even 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. While counting every 3 beats puts us on the notes 1, and E. These counts are the musical counterparts to pass the stinking butter. If we count the resultant rhythm produced by these two, we are left with a count of 1, a 2, and 3E. 1, a 2, and 3E, which has the same stressed syllables as pass the stinking butter. Now that we understand a little bit more about this rhythm, we can start practicing it more accurately. We'll start that just by clapping 3 steady quarter notes and counting to 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now start counting your 16th notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a. Begin accenting every third count. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a. Lastly, just get rid of your unaccented notes, and you're going to be left with 1, and E. 1, and E. Lastly, get rid of that weird counting and just replace it with a steady 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now that we've practiced it this way, it should be fairly easy to apply in an actual musical setting. For example, imagine your drummer is playing in 3/4 with a steady 3 quarter notes, and you want to overlay a steady 4 underneath that same 3. All we have to do is count our quarter notes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we count the 16th notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a. Now accent every third count. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a. Now replace those with 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Note that this rhythm can easily be notated as a repeating pattern of dotted eighth notes. Dotted eighth notes are worth 3 16th notes, and a quarter note is worth 4 16th notes. So anytime you're playing dotted eighth notes against quarter notes in succession, you're creating a 3/4 polyrhythm. So at this point, you've successfully learned how to play 1/2 of a 3/4 polyrhythm. But I think it's extremely important to be able to do this entire process all over again, treating the 4 beat as our dominant pulse. In my opinion, this is the most commonly overlooked aspect of polyrhythm, is that people only learn it with one dominant beat in mind. But if you can shift your perspective and feel the other beat is dominant, it really completely transforms the rhythm. So let's go back to our resultant rhythm. Before, we used the phrase, pass the stinking butter, which had 3 strong syllables in it. We need to find a phrase that has 4 strong, evenly divided syllables in it. Now, I don't know of a traditional rhythm that is taught to teach this, so I'm using my own. Pass butter to the left.
Pass butter to the left. Pass butter to the left.
So just like before, let's assign our hands to each syllable. On the word pass, we hit both hands. On butter to, we do left, right, left. And then the left is right, left. Put it all together. Pass butter to the left. Both left, right, left, right, left. Pass butter to the left. Pass butter to the left. Now we're doing the exact same pattern we did before, the exact same rhythm, but the 4 pulse feels like the dominant pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pass butter to the left. Pass butter to the left. Now what's really mind-blowing to me is this is the exact same thing as pass the stinking butter. Pass the stinking butter. Pass butter to the left. Pass butter to the left. You hear, as I just switch the phrase, that dominant beat comes out to you, and you start to hear what the dominant 3 sounds like versus the dominant 4. And the fact that both of those are all in that same rhythm, and that I can only keep track of one at the same time, is really mind-blowing to me. It's very similar to the Yanny and Laurel phenomenon.
Laurel.
You really can't hear both at the same time. Your brain just kind of switches from one to the other. Or like this illusion of the spinning woman. You can really only interpret it as going clockwise or counterclockwise, but your brain just can't maintain both interpretations at the exact same moment. Now let's take the silly phrase and convert this into musical language so we can start applying this in actual scenarios. Before, we treated these 12 notes like 16th notes, but instead this time we're going to treat them like 8th note triplets in 4/4. This could be counted 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Our steady 4 beat occurs on every 3 counts on the 1, 2, 3, 4, and every 4th count will provide us our even 3 beat. These counts match up with our new phrase, pass butter to the left. 1, 2 trip, 3, let 4. Now we can practice this just like before. We'll clap a steady 4 this time though instead. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we start counting 8th note triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Then you accent every 4th of those counts. 1 triplet, 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 4 triplet. Leave away the unaccented notes. 1 trip, let, 1 trip, let. Lastly, get rid of that weird counting and just call it 1, 2, 3 instead. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now that you've practiced this both ways, interpreting it as a strong 3-beat versus interpreting it as a strong 4-beat, you should be able to play the rhythm and count each hand. So here's my phrase: pass the stinking butter, pass the stinking butter, or pass butter to the left, pass butter to the left. And I'm going to try and count each hand. My left hand right now is doing the 3-beat, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And my right hand is doing the 4-beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And that's the goal here, is to be able to keep track of them both at the same time. Now, this is crazy stuff, pretty nutty, and it might seem pretty impractical. And in future videos, I really want to talk about, what can we do to make this stuff listenable, and why do I care so much about this? For right now, I'm going to give you a little insight onto how magical and how transformative this stuff really is in making basic concepts sound way more interesting. Let's take an extremely simple chord progression. I'm going to use D major, D sus4, D sus2, and back to D. That's something you've heard a million times before. And what I want to do is let's play each chord 3 times. So 3 quarter notes on D, 3 quarter notes on D sus4, 3 quarter notes on D sus2, 3 quarter notes on D. Now right now my thumb is playing every bass note, right? But what if I wanted to, instead of every 3 quarter notes, what if I wanted to cram in 4 notes on top of every 3 quarter notes, right? To do that, what I want to do is let's just start by counting my steady 3, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then I can count my 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a. Let's accent every third count. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's what my thumb will do. Check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's continue with my progression. And you can hear how more interesting that very boring progression is just by adding some rhythmic interest to the bass line there. What if my bass was, instead of just playing D, I had my bass alternate between D and A, all right? So we've got... far more interesting than what we started off with. We could go even crazier. We could have the bass, even though the bass is playing a steady 4 beats, what if the bass was playing polymetrically? So it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would get kind of nutty. Let me give it a try. So, I mean, it's your call if you decide that that's musical or chaotic. It's interesting, in my opinion. It certainly transformed our basic little chord progression of D sus4 into D. It's far more interesting than it was before. Whether you like it or not, well, that's up to personal taste. So in the future, I want to do a lot more with polyrhythm, and it was such a difficult concept for me to absorb. I'm hoping that this video gets the basic point across as quickly as I can teach it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something from it. If you did enjoy this video, you can thank my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. I will see you again next time.